We're here at the College of DuPage Health and Science Center, where Representative Casten is here to discuss his legislative and amendment efforts of reforming the House, Senate, and Supreme Court.
It's my great pleasure to be one of 25,000 people who's ever been a member of Congress. Our job is to figure out, are we making things a little bit better while we're here? And that means you got to know where you started, right? I mean, it's not only history. You want to know where you're going, but you got to know where you started and where you are. There's history and there's nostalgia, and somewhere in between is memory. And we tell ourselves stories about who we were as a country, and those stories ought to be accurate if we can, right? And that means that we got to understand the history so that we don't just get tied up in nostalgia. Last week I went down built a statue of Mamie Till down at Argyle High School, and we got into this beautiful conversation that all went back to when I went down with John Lewis to walk across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, March of 2020. John died in July, so this was his last time walking across. And Ruby Bridges was there, Jim Lawson was there, like all of these sort of icons were out there. And so I was talking to these people and I said, what was it about that sort of time in the 60s that gave, people like Rosa Parks, people like Martin Luther King, the courage to stand up when they knew what the risks were of standing up, and then how did they get people to follow them? And this guy, Chuck Nichols, who I was talking to, who's one of the Freedom Singers, he said, his words, he said, Martin and Rosa were good people, don't take this the wrong way, but the movement came first, and until you have a movement, you don't need a leader. And then the leader shows up when the movement is there. And I said, okay, well, who created the movement? And he said, Emmett Till. And we were talking about that in the context of Mamie Till, because Mamie Till, of course, created the circumstances that turned that tragedy into a movement. And I tell all that story because, how important is civic engagement? It's the only thing. Once you get the movement, and that was true when we saw the Black Lives Matter marches right now. It was true when we saw the March for Women. It was true when we saw the March for Science. None of that was because someone stood up and said, I need you people to go out and march in the streets. It's because people started marching in the streets, and then people in leadership positions had to follow. So it's all civic engagement. Stay engaged, because it's the only thing that ever moves us forward.
From CNTV News, I'm Manuel Nartey.